Untap Upkeep, and welcome back to the channel if you've been here before, and if you haven't, then welcome. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show that I have for you today. So for today, we are going to jump into a semi-budget build. This deck is coming in at just over 60 bucks, and I think it's a pretty fun one for people to be able to play and do. And I think a lot of people would actually enjoy it. So let's dive into it. Please also remember, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all the things that make YouTube happy. And I love and appreciate every bit of support y'all are showing me. So for today, we're going to look at the Commander Renata, called to the hunt. Sorry. So she is a 2 green legendary demigod who is a star 3. And you haven't seen this kind of power or toughness in Magic before, then don't freak out. She actually explains how that works. So Renata's power is equal to your devotion to green. What is your devotion to green, you may ask? Well, each green symbol, so every little green tree you see here on the top right hand corner of all of your permanents is going to count to your devotion to green. And that is going to determine how big she is. So at the very least, when she comes into play, she's going to be a 2/3, which is not bad for 4 mana. So why are we running this for our commander? What's so great about it? Well, we're going to dive into this, shall we? So her ability is what makes her so ridiculous. And that is, each other creature you control will enter the battlefield with additional +1/+1 counter on it. And that's important for things like our Planeswalker here, because it doesn't say non-token. It just says any creature. And it doesn't say we have to cast it. It just has to come into play. So things can get a little, okay, they're going to get a lot scary. We actually run a couple of combos in here to kind of make our board ridiculously scary. Whether or not we can actually win, right? We'll find out. So the first up card to see other than our commander is our Planeswalker Garruk, the Primal Hunter. So for 2/3 green, we get a 3 loyalty Planeswalker whose +1 is create a 3/3 beast creature token. Our commander out, that's a 4/4. A 4/4 for 5 mana, not bad at all. He's predominantly going to be in here for his -3, which is you get to draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Yes, that will instantly kill him, but if we're that hungry for some cards, we can do it, and we can get away with some stuff. We also are having the option to do a -6, which we can create a 6/6 green worm creature token for every land we control. Not great, but not bad. Sometimes you might need that. You might need that -6 to make a whole bunch of worms. You don't know. Predominantly for me, anytime I play this Garruk, it's almost an immediate -3, and let's go. Let's draw some cards. And you'll see why as we go through our creature sweep. Our creature sweep's very big. We are very, very creature heavy at 31 creatures, and I think they're pretty good spicy creatures. So we have the Acidic Slime. It has Death Touch. It's 5 mana for just a 2/2 with Death Touch. It's not that great. But when it comes into play, we can blow up an artifact, enchantment, or a land. So if there's anything causing us a problem, bam, gone. We're running Arbor Elf because we are mainly on mono. We are a mono green deck, mainly forest. So it'll come on turn 1, and then turn 2, you can make another land drop, and you'll have 3 mana open on turn 2, and so on and so forth. So not bad. The Armorcraft Judge here is amazing in this deck, because with our commander out, everything is getting 1/1 counters on it. And then this comes out, and then we can draw a card for every creature we control with a 1/1 counter on it. What is this? Of course, the Avenger Zendikar has to be in here, because we are dealing 1/1 counters, which is, oddly enough, whenever he comes into play, let's say there's 7 forests on the battlefield, or 7 lands in general. So when he comes into play, he's going to spit out 7 bodies. All 7 of those bodies will be seen by our commander, and they will automatically become a 1/2. And then whenever we play a land, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Pretty sweet. This is one part of one of the possible infinite combos we have in the deck. This is the Basking Brood Scale. It doesn't look like much as a 2 mana 2/2 with Devoid and Adapt 1, but whenever one or more 1 counters are put onto the Brood Scale, you may create a 0/1 Eldrazi creature token with sack it, added mana. We'll go into a little bit of how it can go infinite here in just a minute. Then we have the Beast Whisperer. So if you've seen any of my other previous videos with any kind of green to it, where he's allowed to be in the build, this is just a great card to have to draw some cards. One of our end games is End-Raze Forerunner, so it is like a mini Craterhoof Behemoth on a budget because he's only 30 cents. So for 8 mana, 5 and triple green, we get a Vigilance Trampling Haste 7/7 creature that, when it enters the battlefield, other creatures we control will be getting a +2/+2 Vigilance and the Trample. Pretty nice. Elvish Mystic and Finehorn Elves right here are just some more mana dorks. The Dustshell Crawler. So this can come into play and put a 1/1 counter on our commander, so then we can have a couple of other little shenanigans to do with it, or any of the other creatures we might need a 1/1 counter on, such as another one that's close by, like the Fertilid. We can put another counter on it, and whenever we remove the counters, we're able to go fetch a land. This also has another bonus to it, where creatures we control with 1/1 counters on them will have trample. So you're telling me all of my creatures are now going to have trample as long as my commander's been out, because they all enter with a 1/1 counter. Math checks out. I like it. The Disciple of Freyles is just a nice way to sack something and draw some cards if something's been, like, pacified or something. It can't attack or block. Might as well just munch on it and draw some cards, gain some life. It also can serve as a land because you can play it on its backside for a land if we really, really need a land that bad. Champion of Lamball, pretty good in decks like this. So anything that has less power than the champion cannot block creatures we control, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, this thing will get bigger. Tanker Bloom has a couple of different uses to it as a 2 mana 3/2, so it's a pretty decent blocker on turn 2. But also for a single mana, we can sacrifice it and either blow an artifact up, blow an enchantment up, or proliferate. Now, proliferate, if you've never heard or seen that before, means you can choose any number of permanents and or players that have some kind of counter to them. Experience counter, energies, 1/1 counters, -1 counters, things like that, even infect poison counters, and you can add an additional of that to all of them that you choose. You don't have to choose just yours. You could be a little bargaining and go, hey, I'll up your Planeswalker up a loyalty by doing this if you promise not to hit me. Cool, proliferate, so your Planeswalker has an additional counter on it. Hooray me! Don't hit me. Pretty sweet little negotiation, I think. Eternal Witness, ETBs, we're able to get something from our graveyard back to our hand, as well as the Evolution Witness. However, this one is a little bit different. Every time it has a counter put onto it, we can return something back from our hand. So, in the terms of like the Dustshell Crawler, if it already has been adapted once, so we can pay 1 and a green and put 2 1/1 counters on it, making it a really hard to deal with 4/3. Then it would already have gotten something back. And once it's been adapted, you can't adapt again. It's basically like that new mechanic Exhaust. Once it already has counters on it, it doesn't trigger the adapt capability. But the Dustshell Crawler could come into play, put another counter on it, and get something back from our grave that we really, really need. Something that could have been milled, blown up, whatever. We are also running the Evolution Sage. So the Sage has a landfall ability, so when a land enters the battlefield under our control, we can proliferate. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. To proliferate, you choose any number of permanents and or players and give each of them another kind of counter that they already have. We already talked about the Fertilid. We already talked about Finehorn Elves. The Herd Bailoff is another combo potential piece. So whenever a 1 or 1 counters are put on the herd Baloth, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Sweet. So already for 5 mana, if our commander's out, you play this, we're gonna make a 5/5 Baloth because he's gonna get a counter, and then when that beast comes into play, it's gonna get a counter. So then we're gonna have 2 5/5s. Pretty sweet. We're also running the Predator Ooze. It's indestructible, so we don't have to worry about it. And whenever it attacks, we get a 1/1 counter on it. Unfortunately, whenever the creature dealt damage by the Ooze this turn dies, we get another counter. Oh wait, did I say that was unfortunate? My bad. So this thing could get ridiculously big continuously throughout the game because it can't die. So they have to use like Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, or some other form of removal because just board wiping and killing it is just not going to do anything. So that could turn something like, again, the Dust Shell Crawler into quite the powerhouse, making this thing have trample. As it sits right now, even if it's a 2020, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have flying, it doesn't have trample, no lifelink, no death touch, nothing special about it other than it just can't be killed by contemporary means. So it is a little bit of a downside, but it could make for one heck of a blocker. We also have the Ornum Reef Ooze. So for 3 mana, we're going to get a 2/2 that enters the battlefield, and again, puts a 1/1 counter on target creature we control. I went over some of the other things we could put counters on, including our commander, the Fertile Lid, and the Evolution Witness. Maybe even the Predator, the Ooze, don't know. Could be the Baloth, it could be that Basking Broodlord. And then whenever it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each attacking creature with a 1/1 counter on it. So if we turn our thing sideways with the Ooze over here, everything's going to get bigger. We like that answer. Lowell Guardian. Oh, this card is such a house in this deck. So it already has trample as a 4/4 5 mana body. Our commander's out. It becomes a 5 mana 5/5 trample. And we really want this out with our commander. We really, really want it. So at the beginning of combat on our turn, if we control our commander, we get to put a 1/1 counter on every creature we have. Hooray! Everything got bigger. Next up, we have Lornaware Tribe. Just a nice, solid 3 mana for a 3/3 creature that can tap to add 3 mana. We're in mono green, so getting that is not unheard of. Oh my lord, the price for this is ridiculous. Is that really the price for this bloody thing? Oh, I was gonna say, why is that so high? $1.10. I like that. Oh look, and we're now below $60. That was easy. Don't say it, I know you're thinking it. Llanowar Elf is another way to get our engine up and running fairly quickly with just being another Matador, and we of course have Spiff to help us ramp as well. This is one of the key pieces to the whole infinite combo creature that we are setting up. So whenever another green creature enters the battlefield under our control, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Now you're probably sitting there going, okay. How? How does it go infinite? Simple. Ivy Lane Denizen and the Herd Baloth. So if Ivy Lane is out and we cast our Baloth and our commander is out as well, it's a 3-piece thing, sure, but we don't really need our commander, but it definitely helps. So Ivy Lane's out first, Baloth comes in, and Ivy Lane says, hey, that was a green creature that just came into play, right? Yes, it was. Where would you like this 1/1 counter? You know what? Let's put it on the Baloth. The Baloth says, hey, excuse me, I just had a 1/1 counter put on me. Can we please hoop out a 4/4 green beast creature token? The Ivy Lane Denizen will now say, I'm sorry, did you say that was a green creature? You did. Great. So how about we put a 1/1 counter on something? What would you like a 1/1 counter on? And you put it back on your Herd Baloth, and there you go. There's your loot. Your commander just helps make things ridiculously huge as well. The Ivy Lane also comes with another piece in the deck, so we have 2 ways to go infinite. We don't really have haste, so that's kind of but we can still do some things. So the Pride Malkin is just a simple little kitty cat. When it enters the battlefield, again, put a 1/1 counter on target creature we control. So if we have somehow been behind and we forgot or are not able to trigger Bailoff, Ivy Lane, Denizen, we can play this and trigger the loop if we need to. Each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it now has trample. It is just like the Dust Shell. So now we have 2 ways to have trample. And 3 if you include the Enraged Forerunners, though it's a one-time effect. Rex Sage, ETBs, blow an artifact or enchantment out of the water. Scooze, Scavenging Ooze over here is just a nice staple to have in most decks. Just for 1 green mana, you can exile any card from any graveyard, and if it was a creature, it gets bigger and we get to gain a life. You'd be amazed how often that actually could matter, and you're going, man, I wish I had a way to stop that from coming back from the graveyard. Cheers! The Tuskguard Captain also gives anything we control with a 1/1 counter on it trample. So we have 3 ways to give our stuff trample. Naturally, from them having 1/1 counters, I strongly suggest you only use one of these at a time, and then if the board gets wiped, you have a way to do this again. Same thing with the infinite combo pieces. I'm about to get to the second one. Keep either one in hand and play only one. So the second one is going to be the Scurry Oak. It's going to be the easiest one for us to get up off the ground, being that he's 2 mana less. They're just not as big. So he has Evolve. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, if that creature has greater power or toughness, then this creature putting 1/1 counter on it. We don't really care about that. If our commander's out, we immediately get this up and running. So whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters are put on Scurry Oak, we may create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. So if our commander's out, we play this with Ivy Lane already out as well. We're able to immediately get this engine going. Because they are green squirrels, they will trigger Ivy Lane, and just like the Bailoff, it's a chain that just keeps going until we decide we want to stop. The last creature is, of course, the Wood Elves. That allows us to, for 3 mana, go find another land. Running a couple of decent little ramp spells with Cultivate, Rampant Growth, and Kodama's Reach. We have 1 mass board wipe for creatures is Reach Predation, which is going to make us a whole bunch of 4/4 beast creature tokens, which we can hopefully have 1 counters on. And if we have one of the 3 creatures in the deck that do it, anything with a 1 counter on it will now have trample. The Bridge Works Battle is a piece of spot removal that we're running at sorcery speed. It can also be flipped over for a land if we really need it that bad. We have Rishkar's Expertise and Harmonize to help us out with some more card draw. We also are going to try out Fangs of Colonia. So when you cast the spell, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, then double the number of 1/1 counters on each creature that had a 1/1 counter put on it this way. That's just for 2 mana. Let's say we're late game. Let's say we have a lot of mana, but we don't have just enough power yet. Lacking a little bit of power. So for 6 mana, we can cast it for its overload cost. And then when we cast the spell for its overload cost, we can change target to each. So instead of saying target creature we control, it says each creature we control, and everything just gets ridiculous. Gotta like that. Moving on to our instance package, we are running another piece of ramp with Hero, sack a land, go find 2 land, they come into play untapped. We are also running Ram Through, Return to Nature, Beast Within, Inspiring Call, Nature's Claim, and actually a Fog, because it's funny. Prevent all combat damage that we dealt this turn. I'm not even gonna kid y'all. This came in handy at one of the games I was in just here recently at my local game store. Shout out to Kareem Brothers Comics. This actually saved not only my butt, but the guy that played it saved his butt, and we were able to keep the game going. I eventually won that game, so I felt bad because the game has to end, and he did save, but not himself but me. But again, game has to end. It was just great and hilarious because I was like, bro, I got nothing to keep you alive, and I got to try to fight this on my own. Sorry. And he goes, oh, wait a minute. We have a Fog. And all 3 of us, it was a 3-person pod. We were just dying of laughter. We thought it was great. Thankfully, the other guy is he's not only a subscriber to the channel, he's becoming quite a good friend, and he had a good laugh with it too, so it was great. Inspiring Call, by the way, for each creature we control that has a 1/1 counter on it, we will be able to draw a card, and they're all going to gain indestructible. So we at least have a way to protect our board in case of a board wipe. There are better cards and easier cards that do this, but this is a budget build. So if you have some of those cards, feel free to throw them in. The number one that comes to my mind is Heroic Convention. I'm still hovering at like $5 to $10, maybe a little bit more, just outside of what I wanted to do for the deck. We have a couple more pieces of card draw with Hunter's Insight, so we could turn some, like a 4/4 or a 5/5 Baloth sideways, and before damage is dealt, we can say, okay, after blockers, before damage, I'm going to play this and either draw one or, 4, 5, 6 cards. It depends how big the beast was. And if it had trample or not, if it was blocked or not. We also play Return of the Wild Speaker, so we can choose one of the following modes. The bottom one is non-human creatures we control get a +3/+3 until end of turn. So that helps out a little bit. That might matter. Maybe we don't need any more cards in hand. Maybe we just need to finish the game. We also can use its primary option, which is the one I personally use more than anything, because I like having a bunch of cards in hand, is to draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. I don't believe there's a lot of humans in this deck, so that shouldn't be a problem. You can pick one of the big beasts or whatever and draw at least 4 or 5 cards instantly. And that's another reason I really like this card, is it's an instant. So if the last person in turn order didn't do anything, there's nothing for you to really be concerned with. You just need to draw more stuff to find more answers. You could play this at instant speed and hopefully draw cards. And if you happen to have more, then it doesn't matter if it's more than the 7 you're allowed to have at that time, because you have until your end step to go down to 7 cards in hand. And maybe that's all you need to win the game. Or if you have one of our mana rocks down here, you don't have to worry about that at all. So we're running down to our artifact section, where we're running a lot of your typical artifacts you would see: the Signet, Bauble, Mind Stone, Prismatic Lens, and Soul Ring, as well as a Thought Vessel for Nomax hand size. The Bauble's not really necessary, but it's just a different way to help us ramp a little bit. We also have the Swifty for the booties to be able to protect at least our commander, maybe even one of our combo pieces. Life Crasher's Bestiarity, we are extremely creature heavy, and I mean extremely. So why not use a card like this? So for 3 mana, we get an artifact that says at the beginning of our upkeep, we can scry 1. So if we are too land heavy, we can always look at the top card and say, hey, it's a forest. We don't really need that right now, so let's tuck that to the bottom. And then if we pay a green mana whenever we cast a creature spell, we're able to draw a card. So I think it's a really nice piece to have in a deck like this, and hopefully be able to get things up and running and stay ahead of the game, so to say. Let's see what else we have here. Oh yes, our wonderful enchantments. So we have Wall Growth. They have a nice tempo, turn 1 play. We can pay 1 mana, so we can play a land if we have nothing else. We can play this on our land, and now the next turn our land will make 2 green mana instead of just 1. We are running the Master Chef, which acts like another version of our commander. Oddly enough, we have to have our commander out in order to do that, but it's okay. So, and I say it acts like it because it's similar, but not like that great. More like a hardened scale effect, really. So whenever this is on the battlefield, is if we have our commander, it gets the following. This creature enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So if this is out before our commander, which looking at the mana curve, it very well should be, we could play this, play our commander, and it will come into play with a 1/1 counter on it. And then it also has the following: other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So it allows us to basically double up the 1/1 counters we are putting on our stuff when our commander is out and about ready to play. We also have Hardened Scales that can do kind of the same effect, because whenever one or more +1/+1 counters we put on a creature we control, put that many +1 instead. So if this is out and the Master Chef, and then we play our commander will enter the battlefield with 2 1/1 counters, not just 1. It's pretty sweet, honestly. For a little bit more interaction, we run Kendra's Transformation. We can turn anything that's causing us a problem, like, I don't know, an Avacyn Angel of Hope, which gives all of somebody's stuff indestructible. Ew. Or a Terror of the Peaks that's dealing a whole bunch of damage. We can enchant this onto those creatures to become a green elk that's a 3/3 with no abilities. And we get to draw a card whenever we cast a spell. Gotta like that. But when it enters, not really cast. For a little bit more card draw capability, we're running Colossal Magistry, Garruk's Uprising, which also gives our stuff more trample. And then we're doing some really disgusting things with the Unnatural Growth. So at the beginning of combat, we're going to double the power and toughness of each creature we control until the end of turn. And this is every combat, not just our own. Oh my, look out. So this makes our stuff really big on everybody's turn. If nobody has a way to deal with us, we have our board and we're able to protect it, then we are good to go. We are safe, we are good to go, and nobody's gonna want to come near us. We have big dumb things. Lastly, our mana base is kind of loosey-goosey, if you will. We are running 27 basic forests, and we have a sweep of non-basic lands in here. We Karn's Bastion to be able to proliferate land, Reliquary Tower to give us no max hand size, Bonder's Enclave and the War Room to help us draw cards. We have to pay 1 life because our commander's color identity is green. It only has 1 color, but we get to draw a card. Usual suspects of Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse. We even run Rogue's Passage to make something unblockable, like, I don't know, our gigantic commander with all of the green pips we could have. It could be ridiculously huge. And of course, my one piece of land destruction I highly recommend in every single deck I build. There's a few I've been slacking on, I need to go back and fix, but I definitely advise anybody out there watching, run a piece of removal. Don't care if it's Ghost Quarter, Field of Ruin, Demolition Field, even the more expensive Strip Mine, Wasteland, whatever. Run at least one in every deck you can, and you will thank me one day. I promise you. And that'll do it for our mono green, I'd like to say budget build of Renata. Renata, I think, is a very, very fun deck. And I think a lot of people could really enjoy playing something a little off the beaten path and a little different. It's not the most powerful version of the deck. It is a budget, of course. So what would people do, or what are people doing, when you go on EDH Reddit? Bam, right away, there's Heroic Intervention. There's also the Defiler of Vigor. So as an additional cost to cast green permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost a green less to cast if you paid life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of green mana you pay. So, like, we could pay 3 and then 2 life to cast this if we were just shy of that 4th mana, and this would come out to play. Also, whenever you cast a green permanent spell, you may put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, so it synergizes great. All our stuff is going to be ridiculous. If you feel like you need more ramp, there's Rish card over here. Excuse me. There are more dumb things like Kami, Whispered Hopes. There's Tribute to the World Tree. There's Shamanic Revelation. The Kami of Whispered Hopes makes more mana the bigger it is. Tribute to the World Tree. You draw cards if it has power 3 or greater. Otherwise, it gets more counters on it. Shamanic Revelation. For how wide we go, we can draw a bunch of cards, and if they're power 4 or bigger, we gain life. Nykthos. Shrine the Nyx. Add mana equal to the devotion of the color of our choosing. Green. Hooray! And Emerald Medallion if you think the mana curve is a little too high, which I don't think it is. Forgotten Ancient can redistribute +1/+1 counters. The Ozloff, both versions of it would be great in this deck, of course. The Circle of Dream Druids can make you mana for every creature you control, so if we were to go infinite, we could make ridiculous amount of mana. If you feel the commander is being targeted too much, there's Snakeskin Veil. You can add Hydras to it. You can add a Vigor, which is disgusting in this. There's Branching Evolution. There's Guardian Project. Of course, the Great Henge. So as you can see, as we go through, like, some of the most powerful green cards in the game are, like, suggested here. Overwhelming Stampede. Your stuff becomes, however, they get a plus X, where X is the biggest thing on our battlefield. And they gain Trample. Mana Gorge here. Mana Gorge is just ridiculous. I've heard it get way out of hand because nobody had anything to do with it and nobody did anything to it. Railroad Brawler. I mean, it's just great. Any kind of 1-1 counter synergy, this is just going to be a bomb. Same thing with Kodama of the West tree here. So we can deal damage with anything that's modified and go rampies. Gruff Triplets, I really think would be fun in here. I just didn't add it because it is a little high on the mana curve. Nissa Who Shakes Her Booty. I hate that artwork, by the way. Makes our force tap for double mana. Court of Garebreak, we become the Monarch. Put 1 counters on a couple of things. And then for the Monarch, double all the 1 counters on every creature we control. Archdruid's Charm allows us to tutor for some stuff. Exile an artifact or enchantment. Or put more 1 counters on stuff. Seems great to me. This new spicy one, the Mothborn Hydra, is also really good. So every time a land enters, you double the 1 counters on it so it can get ridiculously big in a hurry. Don't know why Renata's sitting right. Oh, this is Naili. I'm sorry. That was a very bad confusion. She makes our stuff cost less. And we can flip over creature cards if we're able to get that lucky. I don't know if she would be all that great in here, but she might be. Innkeeper's Talent could act like a doubling season when we level all the way up. Sorok and Goldclaw, my goodness, the price on this card is going up. Gives all our creatures trample, and then whenever they enter the battlefield, put a 1 counter on it, and they will gain haste. He's better at the Helm of his own deck, I think, versus trying to squeeze him into here, which I have a deck on that. If you would like to see a video about it, let me know. Let me know. I love using it. It goes infinite in a couple of different ways. I think infinite mana, draw infinite cards, gain infinite life, blow up infinite things, and just smile. And yes, I actually have decked myself, and yes, it was absolutely hilarious. You got the Quilled Worm, which, you know, it does really dumb things. Buseju. Bo Nylea gives our attacking stuff trample. I mean, the list here just goes on and on and on. You got Worldly Tutor, Big Bad Ape. So as you can see, this could get really dumb. There's the Colonial Hydra. So whenever it attacks, double the 1 counters on everything we control. 1 counters on them. This deck, if you put probably $50 to $100 into it, it could probably cause a lot of headaches to a lot of people. Just doubling season, Tyvar, they're greater good. So if we worried about board wipes, we can just sack stuff to draw cards. And you know, a big standard baddie right now is Gold Vein Hydra. So we have the capability to make this deck quite the powerhouse if we really felt like it. Of course, there's other things like the One Ring and whatnot that you could throw in here and really make the deck just take off to a whole completely different level. Yes, I know, Knight. And things could be really bad. So let me know in the comments below. What would you do with this list? Would you keep it as is? Is there something spicy I missed? Could you still keep it at $60? Or if you build this, are you going full evil and adding more power to the deck? What are you doing to it? Let me know. With that, I have been your Buddha Dragon, so please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell for some notifications. Please, I love each and every one of you that keep this up. You're the reason I'm even doing the channel, to try and help spread not only my own insanity for deck builds that I do, but to also try to help teach new players different strategies or different things that they may not know. I love helping new players, and I love showing interactions and stuff like that. So don't be afraid. Leave me some comments. You know, if there's a card or commander that you don't know how you would build or whatever, let me know, and I'll sit here and brainstorm and see what we could come up with. But don't forget, rub that belly for mana. I've been the Buddha Dragon. The link to this will be in the description below. With that, May your games be filled with nothing but luck. Till the next time.